You know the tale of Anansi, the spider? Yeah, cunning and clever, the mischievous trickster that deceives everyone. But what if I told you the Anansi story you know is half the truth? What if I told you that before he was an spinning web slinger, he was a man? No, not just a man, but a man who angered the gods. And some say the truth of Anansi is another older story, one that slips through the breeze and under the dust of memory. That was when his curse began, and a new brand of trickery. Anansi was a great and glorious and terrible man. All of the world knew that. And Anansi had a clever tongue. But there was darkness in his heart. His tricks were not for entertainment. They were for his own advantage. He lied, betrayed, and schemed, sure no one could see through him. But the gods were angry at him. For each lie he told, the world became more shadowy. Each act of subterfuge left a long run of hurt, and soon enough the gods were fed up. They decided to punish him as severely as possible. They transformed him into a spider, an eternal web weaver. His punishment? For a lifetime of weaving webs of lies, deceiving others. From Mern to spider, Anansi's fate was sealed, and he began his new life in the web he'd spun for himself. We know Anansi as the trickster, the person who tricks everyone else. He tells stories where he steals, lies, and gets away with everything. He makes us laugh. He is the protagonist of the story. But what if this were not mere entertainment? What if there's something sinister about these stories? For generations, these stories have been told by children, and very often to impart a lesson. But should they? Do parents really want their children to idolize a character who relies on lies and manipulation to succeed? Anansi's tricks, while entertaining, may be sending the wrong message. What if Anansi's stories weren't even supposed to be funny? What if they were warnings, advice about the smooth talkers, the manipulators, the liars that inhabit real life? The type of person who comes off charming and clever, but destroys everything around them. The more we tell our children Anansi stories, the more we teach them that sometimes deception is a problem that can be solved for quick gain. We could be teaching them that they don't need to be honest, provided they're clever enough to win. In Anansi's world, lying isn't merely a part of life. It's how to win. But is that the world we want for our children? A world where falsehood and manipulation are admired as cleverness? The question we must ask is this: are Anansi's stories imparting wisdom, or something much darker? Are exciting tricks more important than the truth, to outsmart in lieu of collaborating? Could Anansi's web be ensnaring us all in its tangled lives? Perhaps we should be examining the higher purpose here that goes beyond the giggles. Perhaps we should try to ask, are these stories, told with the intent to teach, truly molding our children's thinking in directions we didn't intend? When Anansi spins his webs, he captures more than his victims. His tricks radiate like ripples moving outward through a pond into the minds of the very children who listen to his stories. Little by little, they gradually start to copy him, unaware of the webs they're building in their own lives. The issue is, these lessons, nobody makes it fucking explicit what they are. A warning sign is not a part of Anansi's stories. The laugh-out-loud moments overshadow the darker consequences of his actions. But as kids grow, the lesson in these tales take hold, and one day, they might end up snared in a web of their own spinning. As they gain power, the smart tricks they once learned from Anansi's fables no longer seem so innocent. It may give them an advantage for a while, but eventually a lie marches in to claim what is its due. Trust is broken. Relationships are ruined. The web that they wove for other people to get caught in is the web that they're now caught in, and they're alone and isolated in their own lies. Ultimately, Anansi himself, damned to a lifetime as a spider, is the real lesson. A life based on deceit is a life that, clever as it may be, results in solitude. A web of lies may be strong at first, but it's brittle and it starts to fall apart when you least suspect it. But not all is lost. Truth, there's another way, the way of truth. As Anansi weaves webs of lies, we can encourage our children to weave webs of compassion, empathy, and truthfulness. With intelligence, sure, but with integrity. To realize that real wisdom isn't about winning, she said. It's about collaborating. And the moral, in the end, is simple. It's not enough to be clever. It is about using that cleverness for good. We can educate our children on how to be wise, but we can also educate them on how to be kind. To outsmart not with falsehoods, but with truth and respect for others. So what does this mean for Anansi's stories? Can we still enjoy them? Of course, these stories are a part of our cultural memory, but it's time to start questioning what messages we hand down. Are we really teaching our kids the lessons they need to learn? Are we encouraging deceit as the secret to prosperity? Or are we supporting honesty, collaboration, and trust? Maybe Anansi's story isn't that a trickster ultimately succeeds. Perhaps a moment of reckoning, like in life, where Anansi learns that honesty and truth are the keys to success. In that retelling, there's a lesson worth sharing. Alone in his web flies, Anansi may find that his curse, too, is a reminder of what we all risk when we venture into networks of deceit. Relationships sour, trust erodes, and at the end of the day, the solitude is more painful than any victory. What if Anansi, in the depths of his isolation, thinks about how he got there? What if, finally, he grasps that the punishment of the gods wasn't merely a curse, but a lesson he was too late to learn? Perhaps, in his solitude, Anansi starts to weave a different web, a web of truth. For the fateful first time, his head's not spinning with tricks, but about building something real. A web that, rather than ensnaring others, offers the potential of connection, of honesty. Anansi's path was always a little bit tragic, but there is a lesson to be broken down there. Or perhaps the biggest lesson is change the trickster himself. We all begin with choices and we all make our own webs. But unlike Anansi, we have the power to escape our deception. We can choose to create webs of connection, trust and truth, webs that do not ensnare, but elevate. As parents, we can re-envision the stories we tell. This helped our children grasp the consequences of deception and the worth of being true. We can teach them that clever can be at odds with sly. The real power is in telling the truth and using our smartness to build a better world for those around us. What if we start telling you stories about Anansi, stories where Anansi helps people instead of tricking them, where he uses his brain not to win at the cost of other people, but to take them with him, to show the power of honesty and to build neighborhoods based on trust? Think about the power of these new stories. They teach children that real strength comes from honesty, from compassion, and from understanding that we don't need to con, persuade or manipulate to get ahead in life. Instead, we can outsmart challenges by coming together and using our minds for good. Anansi's metamorphosis wasn't simply a punishment, it was an opportunity for growth. And now, in his dying moments, he is starting to view the world not as a place of competition, but a place of cooperation. The deceitful web he once wove now glimmers with the threads of a new purpose. Some purpose they might one day aspire to teach the next generation how to build something beautiful out of truth and not lies. Anansi's story doesn't have to end in failure. It can be a story of redemption, growth, and wisdom. It's a tale that reminds us all that no matter what mistakes we've made in the past, we can change the future to make a new fabric of honesty, trust, and love. As we tell our stories forward, we have to ask ourselves the question: what story do we want to plant the next generation? Or do we want them to know that true cleverness is in doing what is right, and ability is not in parading trickery? In determining how to teach them how to form meaningful friendships instead of manipulating their way to top. Ultimately, the web we spin is ours to weave. And it's never too late to start to weave something better, something stronger, something that will carry us toward a future of trust, kindness, and real wisdom. The story of Anansi is but one thread in a tapestry of lives. What will you choose to interlace today?